Hello, my name's Scott McGill, and the topic of this video is improvising over the jazz tune Giant Steps by John Coltrane. And I know there's a lot of material on this particular tune out there in terms of theory, in terms of concepts, etc. So I'm assuming you already know the tune, you already know the form to the tune. And what I'd like to do today is really strip it back to the basics and talk more about rhythm and form and cadence. In other words, making the ideas that you play cadence according to rhythm. And I think one of the interesting things about this tune is it sounds like it just keeps going. It keeps revolving, and that, for me anyway, makes it difficult. So I'd like to talk about space and rhythm and listening and getting the chord changes. In other words, not just playing straight through them, of course. That's one goal. But the other thing is where to stop. And I found that a lot of times, if I'm not following this very carefully, I can get lost. So the idea is to try to look at it that way and try to be able to space things and to stop playing, actually, and keep your place in the tune. So I think it's more about that rather than anything heavy theoretical. In fact, I won't really go into anything like that today. I'm just going to do some really basic stuff. So I hope you find this helpful. It's not dogmatic or it's nothing special. It's common sense stuff. So what I'd like to do is start out with the three key areas and look at them on the guitar, and we'll do 3 per string patterns because that's something that probably everybody's familiar with. And even though we won't be playing 3 per string specifically all the time, we're just going to organize the scales that way so that we can sort of work with them rhythmically and conceptually, that sort of thing. So the first key that we come across really at the top of the tune is B major. So I'm going to start here on this F sharp, and I'm just going to play B major, 3 per string. So I'll start on this F sharp. So it's just a regular old B major. And I'm making note of the cadence parts, the parts where it resolves to B major. So. So I can kind of, out of the scale formation, I can kind of pick out where it resolves to a B chord. Okay, and that's on a different place on each string. So think about them as individual strings right now. So that's what I'll be doing right now, kind of, that string. And play dynamically, even if you're just playing the scale up, get the dynamics. Like that, okay? So practice the scales musically. The next scale is G major because that's the next key. So I'll do it in the same area. I'll start on F sharp and I'll play G, same format. As soon as you play that, you hear the tune, don't you? So if I combine the B and the G, you can hear it. And I think at first, try to just improvise freely like this. Don't worry about the time yet. Just try to get it in your ear. For instance, watch this. I'll go from B to G, basic. So again, B major. You can hear it go from the one key to the next. Let's add the E flat. That's the remaining tonality in the next one in the tune. And again, I'll start around this G area. So here. So you can, again, find the cadences to E flat. So if we put it all together, here's the B. G. E flat. You can sort of hear the tune now. And then, of course, back to G. Back to E flat, back to B. And that's the idea here, is to really grab all of these little cadence points, like I've said, you know, like here where it resolves on this string to B, here where it resolves to that string on G and E flat, so that you're just connecting small ideas, and you can really work with these things rhythmically and find your place and keep your place in the tune, especially at high tempos. So for instance, we start on B, and we stay close and work to the G, and then work to the E flat. So and etc. And you can hear it now. You can sort of gauge the tune, hear the tune. And again, I'm not doing anything fancy. I mean, in fact, I'd suggest you just keep it easy. Go the other way with it right now, because there are tons of complicated devices, of course, you can use on this thing, and we all know what they are, and it can get ultra complicated, and that's great. I think the neat thing about this is it'll give you a foundation for that stuff. So it'll help you to get, you know, your concepts up by working on the foundations of the tune, which is the rhythm. So that's what I suggest as a way to practice this. And then, of course, do all the positions. So the next B position is here. So instead of starting F sharp, start on G sharp. And then the next G position here. And then the next E flat here, yeah. And then, you know, etc. Start G here. E flat major, B major. Etc. So it's like your voice leading these little areas, you know, you're just connecting one to the other. That's what I kind of suggest you do, and I'll show you a little bit about how that might work with the track. So again, it's small bits of information, voice lead them from key to key, cadencing, and then using the rhythm. You can really focus on the rhythm if you do a little bit less on the pitch and a little bit less broad strokes with the pitch. You can really kind of focus on your rhythm a little more. So let's just do it. I've got a bunch of backing tracks here at different tempos. What's great is there's a lot of different giant steps backing tempos. So here's the slow one, 140. So I'll just jump right in. So here we go, B major right here. E flat. Double timing there. G major, B. And you can hear that I'm just doing the small ideas. I'm just doing the little ones. Connecting them. So you can focus on the rhythm and you can stop. And I think that's the important thing with this tune is learning. You know, we're all learning, you know, I always have trouble with it, you know, stopping, you know, not playing, because otherwise it feels like a runaway train, doesn't it? It's just so fast, it's hard to control it in a sense. Let's move up to another level of, what's this? Let's do that, 160. So let's try, that was 140. Let's try 160. So the same thing, I'm just doing this, the small bits, small, voice lead them, B major, G major, E flat, stop, stop. Etc. Not big gestures, small gestures, control the rhythm, be able to stop, reorganize quickly, play the next phrase. Okay? And again, let's go faster. Let's see what this one is. This one's 200. So, see what happens. This way you can just jump right in. See, it's the same thing. I'm just slowing it down and just voice leading those patterns and not getting too fancy with it, okay? So again, just the small bits. Let's see what happens. We'll go anywhere. This is 250. Okay. Again, same thing. I'm only at the higher tempo. I'm just, again, taking the breaths, taking a break, okay, using the small bits and creating a little drama with, those sorts of things. And again, pulling them through the keys, B major, G major, B flat, and E flat major. Yeah. That kind of a thing. And then blah, 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 blah for the real heated stuff. Etc. So that was giant steps tempo, okay? But you notice it becomes a little more manageable if you pare it down. And again, I would suggest when you're doing those 3 per string fingerings, they're great, they're really good. It's not the only way to do it, obviously. I mean, there's a million ways, but it's something we already know. Those are the scales that a lot of us are already really comfortable with. And again, if used correctly, they become more of a rhythmic thing. They take on more of a rhythmic role. And I think that's the key to this tune is the rhythm. It's the time and it's the being able to stop and not feel like it's running away from you. Because as you hear the tune, I mean, it just goes and goes and goes. Like there's no ending point until the, until the band stops, until somebody goes enough, The thing is, it's just circular. So I think that's an aspect of it that requires us to be able to put on the brakes, listen. And again, if you're practicing the tune, try to practice it where you just randomly hit the track and then continue, let the thing go and try to find your place. Etc. Finding your place, really learning the tune. It's tough. It's not easy. It leaves you a bit breathless. So I think if you can at least just get those scales to prepare, really, we're talking about preparing to play and playing and practicing and preparing. And I think getting just the basic scales and looking at the little cadence points on each string or each group of 2 strings, lead them to the next key. Again, even just here, B major. Now the next key is G. The next key is E flat. So, and then and the key is anticipating, I think, the next tonality. Like you're in B and you're going. Like next A minor to D one is, that stopping note before you lead into the next key is tough. Practice that. That's a great way to practice, because that's the difficulty. The difficulty's in the detail on this thing. So for instance, it's B major, you're playing along, and then G major. That one kind of leading to the next too gives you a little break. And then there's the C. So etc. It's the lead in. So I hope that you found this helpful. It's a difficult tune, and it's an ongoing project. And as we all know, it's sort of this rite of passage, for jazz players, is playing giant steps. And it's a thing that we work on throughout our career. But I hope this has served as something helpful for you, and just gives you a foundation to go to the next level in terms of some more elaborate concepts, and maybe just to help you stay in time with this thing. It's a great accomplishment just being able to keep up with it and play it in time, without having to do anything fancy. You don't need to do anything remarkable or flashy on this tune at all. It in of itself is difficult. If you can play it, boy, that's a great thing. You should really count that as a good bit for yourself. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful, and if you're interested, I do instruction via Skype. I mean, this is just one of the millions of things that we could work on, and I hope to hear from you. And I hope it's been beneficial. Thank you very much for sharing this time.